Hey, everybody. It is so great to have you all tuning us in and turning us on. I'm so thrilled about today's show. Christine Upchurch is joining me here today. We're going to be talking about top 10 myths about spirituality. Yes, there are some. But the question really is, what are we willing to look at? And what are we willing to explore? And then ultimately, what are we willing to change? Christine, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Pat. It's always a joy to join you.
Okay, top 10. Top 10. Where do we start? What's number one?
Number one is we should seek spirituality. Now, for the longest time, I bought into this. I think a lot of people bought into this. I think a lot of people are still buying into this, that it's something we should seek. And there are a couple of reasons I think that it's actually not a good thing to do. First and foremost, this concept of seeking spirituality for many means looking outside of themselves for something spiritual, looking outside of themselves for a leader, looking outside of themselves for wisdom, when in fact the divine resides within us. And even those things that are spiritual that occur and are reflected back to us from the outside of us, our experience of it is a very personal thing. So truly, the spiritual experience is within. The second part, where I think that seeking spirituality is not a good concept, is by seeking spirituality, it means that there's some sort of pursuit or striving. And that is actually the last way you should find your spirituality. Because in fact, what happens is if you are striving, if you are pursuing, if you are chasing it in one way or another, you're not going to find it because it arises within that place of just allowing and being. So it's kind of like, it's our natural birthright. We are spiritual beings, right? It's our natural birthright. And it's kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to take a bite out of a piece of chocolate cake, a really yummy piece of chocolate cake, right? Instead of just like being present with it and enjoying it and having the experience, because it's just, the experience of taste, you think, oh, am I tasting this correctly? And do I have taste buds? And how many taste buds do I have? I've never counted my taste buds. And how do I go about tasting this properly? Instead of doing that, what do? We just sort of enjoy it. We're present with it. With our spirituality, it's the same sort of thing. It comes in that moment-to-moment experience of life, and it is as real as our taste buds. So by thinking in terms of pursuing it, it actually is counterproductive to experiencing it. It's kind of like, with our spirituality, if we can have this sort of childlike openness and awareness, it's going to appear. It's going to appear in little ways as well as big ways. But we just have to have this kind of openness to the experience. The second spiritual myth is emotions aren't spiritual. There's a lot of emotion bashing out there, particularly, I think it's less within some of the religious communities, but even more so within the New Age community. There are the positive and spiritual emotions of, joy, compassion, love. And then there are the ego-based emotions of, anger, jealousy, rage, you name them, right? There's this dichotomy, the spiritual emotions, the ego-based emotions, the good ones, the bad ones. And I tell you, they're all spiritual. Every single emotion that comes through us is spiritual. It's not a good or bad. It just is. And with the emotions, if you can view it as a navigation system that's leading you to a more soul-led life, if you can view it as spiritual guidance, then it's a game changer. For instance, let's say you're experiencing a positive emotion, what some would consider to be a spiritual emotion. That's communicating to you from your soul what is good for your soul, what you need more of, what you should look for in life. You have an interaction with somebody, a stranger in a store, and suddenly that feels really important to connect with strangers. That's your soul saying you need to connect more. Or, you're having an experience where, suddenly you are thinking in terms of shifting your career, and all of a sudden you start to feel energized, the joy within, the possibility, the hope. That's telling you from your soul directly to your ego and personality self that that's a path you should go down. Okay, so let's take a look at the negative emotions, right? The ego-based emotions, as some would say. They're actually navigation. If you have one of these negative emotions, and I don't like calling them good, bad,
Right.
but that's the way people think of them. The anger, the resentment, the jealousy, whatever. It's giving you important guidance, and it's telling you one of two things. It's telling you, A, what's happening now is discordant to your soul.
Yeah.
This is something you should stay away from. Or B, you've got some pain and some woundedness that needs to be explored and released. So the key here with the emotions is to think in terms of them being a navigational system. But instead of just experiencing the emotions, if you can actually take a step back and say, particularly when you're experiencing one of these, more negative emotions, if you can say, what is my soul telling me right now? And actually, instead of staying just totally immersed in the emotion, honor what that emotion is telling you and start to navigate your life in that direction so that you can actually live your life more fully and experience more joy and love. Number 3, this is a good one that a lot of people buy into. On our spiritual path, the goal is to transcend the physical body. So first of all, the underlying assumption here is the body's not spiritual, which, we've actually chosen, we've come from this place of spiritual bliss, and we've chosen to come into the limitation of the physical, to experience the limitations, but to experience the contrast of, pain and pleasure, joy and sadness, and the body actually is another navigation system for us because it tells us on one level or another. It's kind of like you put your hand on a stove as a little kid and I shouldn't do that, right? But
Right.
As you go about life, whether it's through, the gut level feeling or the pleasure that you get interacting with, somebody holding their hand or cuddling with a pet, that's actually giving you guidance on the physical level about what is taking you down the more spiritual path and what's not. So it actually gives us guidance. And this concept that we're going to transcend it, yes, we will transcend it. And the time we transcend it is upon our passing over. And, we may have transcendent moments where we realize we're not our bodies, but we've chosen these physical bodies for good reason to experience this concept of separation, the contrasts, and to live in the joy and the sorrow and the pain and the bliss of our physicality.